Good evening, everyone. This is the Intergovernmental Committee Meeting. My name is Linda Gray. I'd like for the committee members to introduce themselves. First, it is Vice Chair, Shanae Darby.
I'm present. Good evening.
Thank you. Could the other committee members introduce themselves?
Yes, Michelle Hurley, representing the 4th Councilmanic District.
Do we have any other committee members? I see
Yes.
Councilwoman McCoy.
And Councilwoman Xanthia Alva, 3rd District.
Thank you.
Councilman McCoy, 6th District.
Thank you. Any other council members present? Okay, thank you. I'd like to say that tonight our presentation is going to be by the State of Delaware Office of Animal Welfare regarding the animal control contract with the City of Wilmington. Do we have someone here to speak to that?
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Welcome.
perfect. Yes, I'm Chris Smodioshi. I'm the director with the Office of Animal Welfare.
Thank you. Can we have a spelling of your name, or is it going to be on the video or the presentation?
It is on, no, it is not on the presentation, so I will spell that for you. So it's Christina, C-H-R-I-S-T-I-N-A, and Modioshi, M-O-T-O-Y-O-S-H-I.
Thank you.
Sure. So I have a presentation to share. There we go. Wonderful. Well, thank you all for having me here today. I'm hopeful that I can explain a little better what we do and hopefully give you an idea of what services we provide to the city related to animals. Next slide. So the Office of Animal Welfare was created in 2013, and we are under the Division of Public Health, which is under the Department of Health and Social Services. And we were created upon the recommendation of the General Assembly Animal Welfare Task Force, which at the time, there was no place to really go with animal related concerns. So it was decided that the best thing to do was create a state office that would oversee all companion animal programs for the state and be the go-to for any questions or concerns related to pets. I've listed here some of the programs that we currently run. Delaware Animal Services, we're going to talk about in detail. That's our law enforcement unit, which handles animal control, animal cruelty, and rabies control. So we'll go into that in depth. We also have a low-cost spay-neuter program that is in Delaware Code that we oversee, and we help provide subsidies to low-income households to get their pets spayed or neutered and and vaccinated against rabies. We also oversee the Animal Welfare License Plate Fund, which also produces money for spay-neuter of homeless pets through these license plates that are sold at DMV. We also have oversight of animal shelters that relate to some minimum standards of care within those animal shelters. So we do inspections and any complaints that come in regarding the things that are in code under Title 16 related to animal shelters. We also have a disaster preparedness and response program, Delaware Animal Response, or DAR, that helps people and their pets in disasters. And I can talk a little bit more about that, but basically this came out of a response to Hurricane Katrina, when pets were not really provided for in emergency response plans. And therefore people would often put themselves in harm's way because they could not evacuate with their pets. So today, if there is a Red Cross shelter that is set up for a hurricane, for instance, or flooding, we manage the pet portion of that so people can evacuate safely and will bring their pets with them. We know sometimes pet owners don't want to leave their pets behind, so this keeps the people and pets safe. We oversee animal welfare officer training and certification, and this did not exist until a few years ago. So we make sure that anyone who's enforcing the law related to animal welfare in the state has some standardized training. And then the same thing for shelter euthanasia technician certification. Anyone within the shelters that is tasked with euthanasia must go through some training and a certification, because outside of a shelter, that is only done by a veterinarian. So these are some of the programs that we run right now. Next slide. Delaware Animal Services is what we're primarily going to talk about here tonight, and that is our law enforcement unit for the state. We oversee animal control, animal cruelty, and rabies control. Our leadership is Mark Tobin, who is a retired Newcastle County police officer. So it is nice having his expertise to oversee this unit. And we have 26 officers statewide. We have an office here in Newcastle. We also have an office in Dover and one in Georgetown. And then we have 7 dispatchers who answer the phones and dispatch out the calls. And then I've listed here the responsibilities of Delaware Animal Services: stray and aggressive dogs, dangerous dog management, and any dog housing or care violations. These first 3 items fall under dog control services. We also oversee animal cruelty and enforce that. Human exposure to rabies. So anytime a human is bitten or scratched by an animal, we handle that, and we work very closely with public health to make sure that is managed. And if people need treatment, they get treatment, that we quarantine animals appropriately. We also have some services for cats that are seriously injured or endangered. So if a cat is hit on the side of the road, we will go out and get that cat to a vet or to the shelter for care. If they are kittens in a storm drain, for instance, we would respond to that kind of thing. We don't go out for healthy stray cats because it's not mandated in law that happen. But we have added these services for injured and endangered stray cats as a humane service that we offer. And then we go out for any kind of various state, city agencies that request our assistance. This is often the police department, can be fire departments, code enforcement, and so on, if they are in a situation that requires our expertise. What we don't handle wildlife. That would fall under DENREC. We don't handle our agricultural animals, such as cows and horses. That falls under the Department of Agriculture, unless they request our assistance. And we don't handle the exotic permitting or zoos. That also falls under Department of Agriculture. So that's a quick summary of what we do. To give you an idea of the call volume that we receive in 2020, we received 18,313 calls for service. And I have those broken down by types of call. The vast majority are dog control related: a dog at large, a dog bite, similar, a dog outside without proper shelter. They account for 59%, I believe it is, of our calls. And then you can see the breakdown. Teleservice is anything that we can handle without actually sending out an officer. Usually this means something that we need to refer people to another agency or an animal shelter for assistance, or maybe just provide some sort of education or resources, but does not involve enforcement. And then you can see rabies related calls are 2,200, followed by police or agency assists, and then animal cruelty. And I did just make a note here that this call volume for 2020 was slightly down from 2019. And that was mainly due to COVID, especially during that first 3 months or so when everybody was kind of locked down, our call volume did go down. So a typical year for us is over 20,000. Next slide. Oh, and you can see the breakdown there. Same thing, just percentages. And then next slide. And then here we have by location. So you can see it broken down into the 3 counties and the city of Wilmington that pay for animal control. You can see how that's broken down by location, and it follows pretty much what you would expect according to population. Newcastle County, followed by Sussex, Kent, and then the city of Wilmington. And the city of Wilmington typically ranges between 1,100 to 1,300 calls, but again, this was slightly down last year. Next slide. Some other services that we provide that I just wanted to make you aware of under Delaware Animal Services. Again, we oversee that Animal Welfare Officer Certification Program, which ensures that officers that are out in the field are appropriately trained, they're standardized training, and they have this before they're out in the field. And then that also makes sure that laws are enforced uniformly across the state. As I mentioned, we handle cats that are seriously endangered, the disaster response. We do help with constituent relations and conflict resolution. So sometimes there are situations that just don't involve law enforcement, but we may need to mediate a situation. So if you have any of those, you can always feel free to reach out to me in my office, and we will try and assist with those. And then the last thing I wanted to make you aware of is we do have a statewide lost and found pet registry, which is something that we established soon after we were created. And this is a kind of a one-stop shop for the state where people can go to look for their lost pets. If we pick up a pet, we are going to post it here immediately. And we ask other people from the public who find pets to do the same. We also allow members of the public to post any found pets that they have come upon, so that if someone's looking for a pet, they can quickly be reunited with that pet. And this is on our website, animalservices.delaware.gov. Next slide. And this is just a screenshot from that website, so you can see what it looks like. Excuse me. So this has been a good resource for the public. Prior to this, if you lost a pet, you may be driving around to different shelters, you may be checking out, 10 different Facebook pages, but now we have it kind of all streamlined in one place. And this has been a great tool. Next slide. And I wanted to mention the animal sheltering. So we contract with the Brandywine Valley SPCA. Any animals that we pick up through dog control, animal cruelty, they go to Brandywine Valley SPCA. They are really a great organization to partner with, and they have really improved animal sheltering greatly from 5 and 10 years ago. They have a shelter facility in every county. So if a pet is lost in Newcastle County, that's where it's going to go, to their Newcastle shelter. So you don't have to go looking for your pet in Dover, for instance. The return to owner rate is quite high. It may not seem high, but this is high for the industry. And this means people that are reunited with their pet once they are lost. It is over 60%. Currently, I think it's actually at 70%. So that's a great number. We do try hard to get pets back with their families and make it easy for them to find them. We have a 94% live release rate, which means that an animal that goes into the shelter comes out alive, basically. It's either adopted out, it's transferred to another animal welfare organization for placement, or it's returned to the owner. So this is a marked increase in where we were 6 years ago. And then I have some other information here. I just wanted to make you aware that in addition to what Brandywine Valley is contracted to do for us, they also offer these additional low-cost services for the community. They run low-cost veterinary clinics. They have pet food banks. So pet owners can go there if they're struggling and get donated pet food for their pets. And they also often seek grants from other, private or foundations so that they can get additional resources to help keep pets with their owners. So they've been a great partner. Next slide. And as I mentioned, our goal is to keep pets with their families. So if we have a family that loves this pet, but is just struggling to provide for the pet and needs a short-term solution, we can help with things like donations of dog houses or flea medication, or we can connect them to Brandywine Valley SPCA or our other great local shelters in Delaware for low-cost veterinary care or spay neutering or pet food. So that is one thing that's been important to our mission since we were established. Next slide. So now that we've completed 5 full years of this centralized animal control at the state level, we want to look back and see, well, how is it going? And just a little bit of background on this. I'm not sure how much you all are aware of really how we came to be. But back in 2014-15, there was a lot of dissatisfaction with animal control. It was very fragmented. It was confusing because every governmental agency or municipality had to contract with their own provider. So at some points in time, this meant the city of Wilmington residents had a Kent County contractor, and they may have to go there to look for a pet. Sussex County had a Kent County provider, Kent County had a Sussex County provider. So it was very confusing for the public. And there was just a lot of dissatisfaction overall. The cost of these contracts was somewhat arbitrary. Even though at the end, the same provider was servicing all the counties in the city, the cost was not the same or not equitably distributed. There also now are better outcomes for animals than there were at that time. The live release rate is much higher. There's much less euthanasia. And there was also concern at the time when this was established about the enforcement piece of it. The SPCAs, for instance, are wonderful organizations. They were tasked with enforcing animal cruelty, but really did not have the resources or training to do that. And so one of the things the public wanted was they wanted some standardized training and consistent enforcement throughout the state. That wasn't happening. So these are some of the things that really led to the creation of Delaware Animal Services and why everything was centralized at the state level. And since then, I do think, and I've been involved in animal welfare for quite some time, it has greatly improved for all of the reasons I've listed here. There's really, it's a great resource for the community because there's one place to go with concerns or questions. I think the training and the enforcement is standardized, and there's no confusion any longer about where to go to look for your pets. So we're happy with it. I hope the community is happy with it. We've gotten some positive feedback, and we're just going to keep continuing to improve. Next slide. Okay, so the costs I wanted to just share with you briefly. When this was centralized at the state level, the counties and the city agreed to continue to pay what they were paying to the previous vendor until a fair pricing agreement could be established amongst all the parties. And so there were many meetings that took place to determine how the costs of dog control could best be distributed. And it was determined that really it should be based on population and that the cost should be distributed according to population. So back in 2015, the city of Wilmington was paying $600,000 for dog control. Today, you're paying $256,000 for dog control because it's according to population. So that has been, I think, a much more equitable distribution of the costs. And so I just wanted to share that with you. And you can see the costs here for fiscal year 21, 22, 23, and 24 and what they look like for the city of Wilmington. And you can see that the population of the city of Wilmington is 7.46% of the total. Okay, next slide, and we're almost done. I think I have one more. This is just contact information, so you know how to get a hold of us, or you can have your constituents get a hold of us. The phone number there, we do answer 24/7. We have daily operational hours. You'll see there from 8 to 8 on weekdays, 10 to 6 on weekends, and we will go out in the evenings for emergencies. And then people can also file a non-emergency complaint online if they prefer to do that. I should have shared my information with you, but I will make sure that I get that to you so you have that if you need to reach out to me. So that is my presentation, and I am happy to answer questions you may have.
I thank you very much. That was a very comprehensive presentation. I have lots of questions, but I'm going to defer to my other council members first. I think I saw Councilmember Oliver's hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Christine. Great, very informative, but I have several questions.
Okay.
Do y'all handle the raccoons?
We do not handle raccoons. Wildlife falls under DENREC. However, if a raccoon has bitten someone, then we will come out to that, because now it's a rabies issue. It's a potential rabies issue. And so we would capture that animal if possible, unless it's already run off, and it would be sent for testing. And if that's possible, then we gather that information and we send it to epidemiology at public health, and they'll work with the victim on recommendations for treatment.
No, I read what understood when you said it was wildlife, and I know raccoons are wildlife, but then Denver was saying something else, and maybe they work with y'all. But let me just follow up. May I follow up, Madam Chair?
Sure.
Yes.
How many you know right off how many Wilmington police officers are involved with your staff?
How many Wilmington police officers?
As far as animal services, I keep hearing you saying Newcastle and State and Dover police. I mean, are there any Wilmington police officers involved with animal control services?
Well, they certainly call us if they need assistance with something. And then likewise, we will reach out to them if we need their help and we have to respond to something that might need a little more protection or police involvement. So we do have a good relationship with the city police department.
So as a follow, I was just wondering whether any police officers from the city of Wilmington who may have retired, or any officers
no. We have had them on staff in the past, but we do not currently now.
Let me follow up, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Do you have any minorities in your summer youth program with your animal control? Because we do have, I know over here on A Street, they have, I think they do something with some minority youths in the summertime for us volunteering, because we have, when you think of animal control, to my understanding, to my knowledge, you just don't see a lot of Black youth get involved with the animal control. But in hindsight, you have a lot of minority youth who really love animals. And I always wonder why no one really reached out or had a steady program to work with some of the minority kids to get them to be veterinarians. I mean, like under your umbrella. So do you have a program as such?
We do not have a youth program, and part of the reason why is we really cannot utilize children in our state work. It would be somewhat dangerous, but I will say that the Brandywine Valley SPCA does have a summer program, and I can find out more about that. So that would be
I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, I read something about it. Where are they located? The Brandywine Valley SPCA, where are they located?
They are in Old Newcastle right now.
Right, okay. So if you can find out that information, because I hear a lot of good things about that organization, but I'm just glad the chair and the vice chair was able to have you come on, because I hear a lot about, the animal services or control animals, but we don't see a lot of it. And when you say constituent resolution, conflict resolution, could you give me an example of that?
So an example of that might be that a constituent has reached out to you and they're having an issue with a neighbor or something related to animals. You can either direct them to us or you can reach out directly if you'd like, and we'll get you an answer. And if it needs to be investigated, we can investigate that. But you can always reach out to us directly. And like I said, I apologize, I don't have my information up there, but I'll make sure I get that to you all.
And when you say vendor, was you talking about the the branded wine via SPCA? When you said something, I heard you say something about vendors, and I was trying to figure out where you were going when you said vendors.
Yes, that's what I meant, the shelter.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That will be all. Do you have a lot of issues with, I'm sorry, one last question. Do you have a lot of problems with aggressive animals, such as maybe pit bulls? Not all pit bulls are aggressive, but is that what your target when I'm looking at the dog calls? Do the majority of your calls related to German Shepherds or pit bulls or that? Could you tell me, do you have the stats on the animals that you pick up?
Sure. Yeah, we don't look at breed so much as the actions. So if a dog has bitten or attacked someone's animal while they're out on a walk or something, we do go out and investigate those. And that's around 2,000, at least the human bites are around 2,000 a year.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Good job.
Thank you.
I think that was in Wilmington, correct? 2,000 bites?
No, I'm sorry. That's statewide. I don't have that broken down by location.
Statewide, thank you. Any other council persons have questions?
Yes, Madam Chair, my hand is up.
No, I didn't see it. Okay, go ahead, Councilwoman Harley.
Thank you. First of all, Motoyoshi, is that how you pronounce your last name?
Yes, correct.
All right. So thank you for your great presentation. My question to you is this: I know that your organization does not address raccoons, but my question to you is this: I had a constituent that had a family of raccoons running around in their kitchen ceiling as a result of a hole in the roof, and she could not afford to address the raccoons. Do you know of any organization where residents or constituents can reach out to get some kind of help, financial help?
I do not, but you could reach out to DENREC and ask them that question. I know there are services that people can pay for to come remove raccoons or squirrels or anything that might be in their home, like kind of a critter control service of anyone that provides any kind of financial assistance with that, unfortunately.
Yeah, follow up, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Yes, and so, yeah, I know that there are services out there that they can pay for. However, when you have individuals in a situation where they do not have the funds, in my opinion, and it's just my opinion, it could turn into a safety hazard having a family of raccoons. And so that's what I was thinking about, the safety of it, especially if you have children.
Right.
And so it's something that I can pick, I can reach out to DENREC to see if they are aware of any kind of funding available in an emergency situation, because that's not like an ordinary situation when you have like one or two, but when you have a family of raccoons running around in a ceiling, I mean, that's nerve-wracking in addition to it being a safety hazard. So I just thought that I would ask you, but thank you. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any other questions from council members? I obviously can't see hands up, so just wave at me. No other questions? Are there any members from the public that have questions? Are there any members of the public out there? WITN?
Hi, Chairwoman Gray, this is Daniel. I don't see any hands up from the public.
Okay, thank you. Well, I have several questions. One, I would like to get some information about the actual law. Does this state that the dogs have to be on a leash or just on a leash and under control of the owner?
The law was actually changed last year to say that it had to be on a leash.
So they have to be on a leash, okay.
Correct.
Now I got that straight. Okay, the other thing is that I've had a lot of complaints in the last month about dog bites and dogs at large.
Okay.
So these are sort of personal situations, but I did call your office. So I'm just trying to get a procedure or how to handle these type of situations. Okay, so a person was bitten. The other individual was there with the dog who was not on a leash, or maybe it was on a leash. Okay, the other individual was given a ticket, but the victim was not giving any information. So she eventually had an $1,800 bill for the dog bite, and she didn't have any information about the perpetrator. So I got involved and I called down, attempted to get information, but I couldn't get it because I wasn't the person. So I had to call the person, they had to call you, they had to call me back. I mean, this was ridiculous. Then they had to give me the information. And then I had to track it down in court to find out that she would have to file charges, come to Dover, and then press charges against the person to get restitution. Now, explain to me why I had to intercede and why the victim was not given any information about the perpetrator of the crime, the person, the name, the dog, nothing. And then I was told that she had to call to get that information, which she wasn't informed of. So is there a procedure or what's missing there?
So typically the officer should let them know that they are entitled to a victim report, which would give the information of the owner of that dog that bit.
I'm sorry, I missed it. A what of court?
A victim report. So typically,
victim report. Thank
yeah,
you.
Right. So typically the officer, if they requested it, the officer would provide that, or they could call our office and request it, and we would send that information.
But they have to request it. They have to know to request it when they're the victim. I mean, a ticket is given to the perpetrator. So I'm just questioning that procedure. I think it would be much better if the victim was given the information also.
Yes, agreed. I can take that recommendation or that concern back to our chief of Delaware Animal Services and see what can be done about that.
Also, is it true that they would have to, if they filed charges against the individual, go to Dover to resolve the charges?
I think it depends on what charges we're talking about. If it's dangerous dog charges, they are only handled in one JP court in Dover. Otherwise,
this was not a dangerous dog. This was just a dog bite. Okay, so for a dog bite, is only JP in Dover handling those cases?
No, I don't believe so. I think it would be in the local jurisdiction. So if our officer gave them a ticket for dog at large or something and they wanted to challenge it, I believe they go to their local JP court to do that.
Oh, I wasn't speaking of the person that had the dog. I was speaking of the victim. If they wanted, not the person challenging the charge, if the victim wanted to take the perpetrator to court so they could get restitution for their dog bite.
Yeah, no, I do not think that is Dover specific. The only thing that is Dover specific is if there are dangerous dog charges filed, and only those cases are heard in Dover at I forget what the JP court number is, but so maybe there was just confusion with the question that they gave you that information inaccurate.
No, I think the woman got that information, but okay, now that I understand. Also, do you know how many cases go to Dover of dangerous dogs? That's where you have a panel, correct?
There's no longer a panel. They've done away with the panel. And now it is decided by a JP court magistrate.
For a dangerous dog. Okay, I
Correct.
understand that.
Just for dangerous dogs.
Okay. The same individual, it seems like there are dogs in her neighborhood that aren't being controlled, was in the park and there was an unleashed dog there. There was a Wilmington police officer there and he came in and he spoke to the gentleman that owned the dog. Is there anything further than that? Because just telling someone to put the dog on a leash doesn't seem to be working, because I had the problem right next door to me. So I've gone through this personally. But do the police check to see if the dog is licensed, if they've had a rabies shot, especially if they're at large?
I don't know if the police do, but if we had an animal welfare officer there, we would check to see if they have a license, possibly if they're vaccinated for rabies, but that may not be something they have on them. But they certainly could give a ticket for having their dog off leash.
Yes, but they don't check to see if the dog's licensed or vaccinated?
A lot of times they do, yes.
Okay. Because I would suggest that they do. So if the person's dog hasn't had their rabies shot and they're not licensed, that would be additional tickets, because it doesn't seem to be working. This woman is complaining to me like every other week about the dogs that are running around. Their owners are with them sometimes, but they just let them run around off the leash. So my other question is, how long does it take your officer to get to a site generally in Wilmington if they're called?
It really depends. I mean, it could be quickly within 10 minutes, or it could be, an hour. It depends on how many calls they have stacked up. But
we know the animal doesn't stay in the same place. So how do we handle that? If they get a call and it takes them an hour, half an hour to get there, the animal may not be there. So what is done then? What's the follow-up?
Well, that's the difficulty. If they're in a park and they don't know the person and the person's not there when we get there, that's going to be harder to enforce. But we do try to get there as quickly as we can. And if she can make sure she has her number and calls when she sees that, we can send someone out.
She does. She has it on her phone ready.
Okay.
It's happened so often. The last time I called about a problem, they told me I had to have the person's name, date of birth, and pictures of them violating whatever law I thought they were violating in order for them to take action against the owner of the dog.
Well, yeah, I don't know when that was, but that's not the case. If people have pictures, that's certainly helpful. Particularly like you said, if we can't get there this is all done by the time we get there. If someone can take pictures or video, that's always helpful, but it's not required.
Okay. Also, could you just tell me what the field officers' duties are?
Yeah, their duties are to respond to calls from the public for dogs at large, animal cruelty, cats hit on the side of the road, and a variety of those calls. In addition, they will do proactive patrols where they'll just patrol areas, and they'll do follow-ups on any cases that they need to further investigate.
Okay, thank you. You said that you had this constituent, what did you call it? Constituent relations. Would that help when someone is trying to get restitution, but let's say they're not capable either financially or awareness level to take someone to court? Would you mediate a dog bite situation or?
I mean, we can't mediate a court situation. We certainly can provide if they, they have the victim report, they have documents that they need. That's not really what we mean by constituent relations. Constituent relations means if you have someone from the public that has a concern, a question, an issue with a neighbor, if that's something that we can help with, we certainly will.
Oh, well, that's what one of this is. The neighbor's dog has bitten other people too, but the neighbors are concerned about the individual and the dog. So if they came to you, you could possibly bring in the dog owner and discuss it with him without involving the neighbors? If the neighbors reported it to you.
Yes. I mean, we would come out and do an investigation. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank you. One last thing. I understand that there's an increase in this year's contract. Could you explain to me why you're increasing for your
Actually,
services?
it's a decrease this year because the city of Wilmington population has gone down. So let me see here. So in fiscal 21, this current year, you're paying 256, 384. Next year, you'll be paying 255, 657. And then there's a 2% inflationary increase for fiscal 23 and 24. So that would go up by about $5,000 in 23 and about $5,000 in 24.
Oh, thank you for that clarification. I had a
Sure.
total misunderstanding. I thought there was an increase for this year, and I was going to comment that, last year we had a decrease in calls because of COVID. So I was wondering.
Yeah, but our costs do stay the same regardless. And so we don't really have that flexibility, but thankfully I think City of Wilmington's in a good position because you're one of the rare jurisdictions where the population is going down a little bit. So that helps.
May I ask if an officer comes out because a dog is at large on your property or he is defecating on your property, are they obligated to give that person a ticket? And how many tickets can that person get before some action is taken? And what action ultimately can be taken if the problem is not resolved by the owner of the dog?
Currently for dogs at large, we can issue tickets. That's all we can do.
Okay. Just continual tickets. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you. Any other questions from council members that I've stirred up? No?
Madam Chair, this is Daniel Walker. I see John Rago from the mayor's office has his hand up.
Oh, I see that. Sorry about that. Mr. Rago, you have the floor.
Yeah, Madam Chair, thank you very much, and good evening, council members. I just wanted to say that I've had the pleasure for about 20 years now in the city of Wilmington managing policy and funding for animal control services. And we've been through a lot in the city of Wilmington, and a number of years ago, we had a sad situation here where we weren't, animals were not being cared for properly. Animals were lost, families could not find them. And in recent years, I've had the pleasure of working with Chris and her staff at the animal welfare office. And I got to tell you what a great setup we have now. And I also want to commend the, Brandywine Valley SPCA. They have the contracted services statewide and they do a wonderful job. I always look at the animal situation as being a children and family situation also because, animals are part of the family. And so when there's a disruption, it's usually a disruption in the family too, because we all kind of are close to our animals. So this office helps in that way also. And so does Brandywine Valley. Some of those numbers that Chris gave you, 94% live rate. What that means is we were the first in the nation to have a no-kill policy here in the state of Delaware. That means we do not kill our animals. We try to find them new homes and try to take care of them the best we can. So congratulations to Chris, congratulations to the Brandywine Valley SPCA. I just want council members to know that I'm happy to be your liaison. I handle policy and funding for animal control. So I'm here if you have any questions or need anything regarding that. Thanks very much for an opportunity to speak, Madam Chair.
Oh, thank you, John. Yeah, I'm an animal lover too, and I understand how an animal lost or hurt or anything sick can disrupt the household. But the dog situation is, from my constituents, is pretty bad. And there doesn't seem to be, like you say, a resolution for resolving the problem. So the same dogs are still running at large, attacking people. This woman says she can't even go for a walk without coming in contact with several dogs at large. And by the time your officers get there, the dogs are either gone or the police get there and talk to the person, but it's not resolving the problem. So that's just the reason I wanted to know, what actually was going on. And I agree with John. I totally commend that the state went for no kill because I'm an animal advocate and donate to a lot of the shelters. So I'm very supportive, but I would like for people to be responsible for their animals. That's all I'm trying to do. So thank you, Christine. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Anyone else have any comments before we close the meeting? John, do you have your hand up again? No?
No, Madam Chair, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Well, good night to everyone. Thank you again, Christina.
Thank you.
It was very helpful. The information has been very helpful to me, and I hope the other council members copied the numbers down. You said that you will forward us your information.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Have a
I
good night.
think that will conclude this. Good night. I think that will conclude this committee meeting. Do I get a motion to close the meeting?
So move.
I could. Okay, a second.
Second.
Have a good
Thank
night.
you.
Thanks.
Have a good night. Bye. Thank everyone for coming.